taking a look at the Ricoh XR Rikenon 55mm F2.2 lens. I obtained mine as part of the Ricoh KR5 Super camera kit, call it if you may, for $5, the whole thing. Now you can see my video about this camera on my channel. I'll link it in the end screen. The camera definitely impressed me and the lens seemed to do just fine. But however, I didn't do a lot of testing on the lens and I was shooting mainly closed down, or pretty much closed down most of the time on 35mm film and not even medium-sized scans. And honestly, I wasn't checking for any sort of the lens performance other than just basic usability, and I was more interested in the camera performance. In this video, I'm taking a more in-depth look at this lens, and I think I might need to correct some of my assumptions I had after using the camera initially. Let's first get the technical bits out of the way that has nothing to do with my opinion or experience. Well, the name is the Ricoh XR Rikenon 55mm F2.2. It's a manual full-frame standard prime lens. Date of release is 1980. The origin is Japan. So this lens was initially released, as I said, as the cheapest lens option to the Ricoh KR5 Super SLR camera. The predecessor, the Ricoh KR5, was released essentially with the same lens, or the identical lens, in 1978, but the lens was named the Ricoh Rikenon 55mm F2.2 at the time. The common assumption is that it's exactly the same lens, but it was simply renamed to fit the more common Ricoh lens names, which is the Rikenon brand as we know today. The mount is the very well-known Ricoh K or Pentax K bayonet mount, or referred to as the PK mount. Focal length is 55mm. In terms of the aperture, it's an automatic diaphragm with 5 blades. Now, in my KR5 Super, I mentioned the lens it came with had 6 blades, but I was actually referring to the F2 version of this lens, the XR Rikenon 50mm F2. Now your range is F2.2 to F16, but you have like a third of a stop increment to get you to F2.8, which is indicated as a white dot, and then from then on it's full stop increments all the way to F16. In terms of the glass or the optics, there's a common misconception that it has a 3-element grouping or a triplet configuration. But it is in fact a 4-element configuration of 4 elements in 4 groups, and this is confirmed by a Ricoh manual. The closest focusing distance is a fairly long 80 centimeters. The focus throw by my calculation is about 150 degrees. The size, maximum size, is 62 millimeters by 49 millimeters. The weight, about 140 grams, give or take. Filter thread is 52 millimeters, the screw type. The construction, mainly plastic. I mean, sure, you've got metal bits, but it's mainly plastic. The price is, I suppose, $10 to $30 is what I saw, but I've seen people pay $5 for it. Like, I actually paid for the whole camera and kit. As an introduction to my thoughts on the lens, here is a very short little video vignette I shot using this very lens. Okay, so like the title of this video suggests, it is a soft lens. Wide open, it is by far the softest lens I've ever tested, or shot for that matter. Well, as we can see from the samples, it is very soft. The sharpness, you know, at f2.2 and even f2.8 is very soft, but gets better from f4, and then from 5.6 it performs pretty much as any other budget lens in the sharpness department. Sharpness is definitely the best in the middle of the lens, in the middle of the view, and falls off to the edges somewhat, but it gets better as you stop it down to f16. Chromatic aberrations are visible. Spherical aberrations is one area this lens absolutely excels in when opened up. It is basically the defining nature of this lens is the spherical aberration. The soft nature of the lens is definitely because of that. It gives the lens a very dreamy look that I think when harnessed correctly can work very well. It however does make the lens fairly low contrast when you open it up. Chroma aberration seems to be visible in the corners, but the images I shot doesn't give a clear indication of that. Barrel distortion does seem to be present. You can see that in the way that the image seems to bulge towards you, and you can see it on the sides. The bokeh swirls when wide open, and the relative distances between the camera subject and background allows it. You have these round bokeh balls when you're wide open, and they have little hard edges, but also when you point it at the sun, you get like a wide, bright gradation. When that light's broken, you actually get these starburst flares, which is very nice. And as you close down, you get the starburst flare very pronounced, and a pentagonal flare shape is visible in the frame. The lens vignettes quite severely when opened up, but it dissipates as you stop down. Now, along with the softness of the lens and that blooming and the way that it swirls, that vignetting might actually be a cool thing, but for general use, it vignettes too much. And for me, the full stop increments of the aperture ring is a bit restrictive, but I must say it makes adjustments quick at least. It's very easy to calculate, while you have the camera on your face, to quickly calculate, different settings. The focus throw on both these lenses actually are very loose. It is like, if your hand travels from the lens after focusing, it feels like even a minor vibration could put the lens out of focus again. I didn't even try using it with a follow focus system, but it would probably help a little bit with the stability for video work. The lens is light, it's plastic, and it's easy to transport, and you won't notice it in your bag. It does feel cheap, but it has to be expected with such a lens, and especially for the price that you get for it. Now, the PK mount is easy to adapt. Adapters are fairly easy like this. This is the PK EOS R adapter, and it works well on most mirrorless systems, but unfortunately the Canon EOS DSLR system generally doesn't play well with the Pentax K or the Ricoh K mount. The adapters for that's not great because of the flange distance. That little pin over there that controls the aperture diaphragm gets in the way of your mirror, and as the mirror locks up, it actually hits that and can damage the mirror in your camera. So if you want to use a lens like this on a Canon EOS DSLR, you need to bend that pin back, and that's not great. You don't want to be modifying lenses unless you're pretty much sure you're going to be using it exclusively on your DSLR, Canon EOS DSLR. In that case, then I suppose you can. Now, prices I see is $10 to $30. Like I said, people pick it up for less. I would not buy this lens for $30. I mean, it performs normally from f5.6 to f16, which makes it a very slow general use lens. The irony is, the thing that makes it a low quality lens is probably the only reason I would buy it and pay, say, 10 or 15 bucks for it, and that is for that soft, dreamy look. That is the only use case where I really see it working for me. I think if you want to use the XR Rikenon, I would suggest get the F2, or I know there's an F1.2 even, but this is definitely not the lens if you're looking for high quality sharp images. Like I said, it performs okay, from sort of f5.6 to f16. I would say your best quality f5.6 to f11, but I think we can all agree that it's definitely not a high quality, high fidelity lens. I will put a couple of links to it if you have like $10 to spend and you want to get a soft, dreamy effect lens, or that's something that you might use. I'll link it down below. It is an affiliate link. I'll get some money if you do buy it from the seller. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.